Greetings and Hotep. Okay, dear JJ, this keeps nagging on my heart. I'm really trying to be done with the past, but I'm being told I have to say this to you. What I said to you when I came, first of all, this was in 2021. Lawrence allegedly died July 13th of 2020. I went to Johnny Will Lofton's house for help and started hanging out with Johnny Will Lofton. Let's see if his so-called funeral was that next month. I went to Johnny Will Lofton's house to ask him to give me $5 to buy stockings. So that was 2020. So I started hanging out with Johnny Will Lofton. So 2021. From 2020 to 2021. (2022) I got evicted June 2nd, 2022. A plus properties, 4 sheriff and 4 Tampa police officers in the yard. And right before that, I had taken Johnny Will Lofton on a Good Friday of 2022 to the Good Samaritan. Let's see. February 9th of 2022, I got pulled over by the police, Kelly Thomas. She took my tag, JDJN 53 or N59, off of that burnt orange, Mango Tango Dodge Caliber that Lawrence gave me. The day before that, February 8th, I backed out of the yard and tapped a Massey truck, and Tampa police officer C.P. Eason wrote an incident report. That's what he told me. But I later found out through Tarot that it was a hit and run on my record. And I went to the Franklin Street Tampa Police Department building, complained to the police, talked to the detectives. They didn't really help me. They were like, oh, that's just what it's coded as. I'm like, get this motherfucking hit and run off of my record. I talked to CP Easton. He said it was an incident report. He said it was nothing but paint transfer. And so that was all a fraud, scam, scheme. And that's how my brother ended up with my insurance information and my driver's license information, because he stood right outside as C.P. Eason was writing it down. And C.P. Eason obviously gave him my information because he's probably a crooked cop, if he's a cop at all. Now, what did I need to say to you? So that had to be earlier in 2022 when I came to your house and asked you to take me to Dewey's to get Johnny Will Lofton some alcohol, because when he doesn't have alcohol, he really does not do well. Now that was between 11 and 2 in the morning, because I think Dewey's closes at 3 on the weekend. I truly came there just to ask you to take me to the liquor store. I really thought you would have taken me, but you got into this sex thing, and we were tussling, and you shot your finger up in my vagina, and it felt really good. But I tried really hard to get it out of there, and I was fighting you, and I didn't know how to play things, because I felt like, oh my God, is he going to take it? That's what I was thinking. So I was like, God, help me use my words. And so I kept saying, like, if I were your girlfriend, you wouldn't want me to cheat on you with somebody else. So I'm not having sex with you. And I was trying my best to get out of there without, you all cut it out, without being raped, without getting killed. Because if you started to try to take it and I yelled and screamed, I felt like I would end up being choked out, if not smacked a couple of times, punched a couple of times. And I don't do the domestic violence. That's never been my thing. I grew up watching that, and I vowed, God, if you give me the strength, I'm not going to be with no man that want to hit on me and then make up and then hit on me again. And thanks be to God, I haven't had that problem. So I allowed you to finger me because I felt like with you grinding on me, that would release some of the tension and I wouldn't end up raped. Because sometimes when men have slept with a woman, if they stop sleeping and she goes on to another man, those men still feel like, oh, that's still mine. I can still have her like that. And so I was in a vicarious position because I really felt like you felt like, well, I could still get that. She'll still come and tighten me up. And no, she would not. And, you should know that from the time you told me to come and clean at your house and you would pay me to clean because you and Paul from Micon in 2019 helped me lose my job right after I told you. That's when I was hanging out with you in 2018, 2019. And I told you about the promotion in the front office I was vying for. And all of a sudden, my whole world fell apart. It took a long time. Every time that man passed on that bike, he slapped that sign. It took a long time for me to realize that you all sabotaged my job. You and Paul. That's why you didn't get up and take me to work. I cried like a baby, and I vowed in my heart that I would not be with you as your woman if you were going to help me lose my job. I was not going to be with a man who would do that to me. And so that's ending what I knew you and Paul did in 2019, 2018, 2019. I only worked there for 6 months at Micon. Now Hood Containers. So did you get a job there after you intentionally helped to get me fired? I know Paul wanted my job as the bailer. He wanted to be the bailer. Now I'm a female. I'm not as strong as the men. Paul's standing up there with all those rippling muscles. It's like, why would you want to take the cushy job from me and then put me where? Where am I going to work? I could have gone back to the cold glue machine, but the baler was working really well for me. I don't understand. And they did something else over there because a man came in there, and I believe first Brian intentionally didn't tell me about the meeting on Friday. So I'm in the baler just working. Everybody else is at the mandatory meeting in the break room, which I knew nothing about. And he set me up, I believe. Now, it's taken me all these years to figure this out. The guy that gave me a ride home a couple of times, he used to drive a black Genesis, and he played on a softball team. And he lived in my neighborhood right over near Hannah and Hillsboro, more so, and Mohawk, in that area. He came in there, and I believe that Brian reported that I did a sexual act on that man in the baler room, and that did not happen. But Brian wanted to get rid of me too, I believe. So all of this sabotage in the air, I don't know. Work could be so good if it were not for coworkers and jealousy and envy. So now to leave Micon and Paul and what you all did to set me up. Miss Pearl, I believe she had her son, Henry Lanier, aka Boss Man. He's got Boss Man tattooed across his face. I saw them as I was leaving work. Now, I know Boss Man don't hardly, well, I'm not going to put out too much of the child's business because he still got to live. I saw them all the way out at Commerce and Sheldon Road. And Boss Man don't travel like that. So she had to be mad that I started riding with Paul up from Micon. I don't remember Paul's name, but I remember he is a photographer, a videographer, and I don't know what else he does in the entertainment business. I was paying Miss Pearl $20 a morning to take me to work. And that's because you, shortly after I met you and I told you about me getting the job, I asked you to take me to work. First, you said you would. And of course, I was going to pay you. I probably wasn't going to pay you $100 a week. I paid Miss Pearl $100 a week, $20 every day, Monday through Friday, to get me to work. Now, of course, she came on time because she old. She came early. And between you and her, y'all had to get me out to the car. It's really hard to go to work when you don't really have enough rest. And at your house, you know what you required me to do to be there. That's the way it felt anyway. Those were not the words, but it's like if I didn't get up and do that, I couldn't be there. And I was working really hard to save my mom's house. I didn't want to let my mom down. My mom struggled for 30 years to pay for that house. And I wasn't going to allow it to be lost. So in order for me to do the foreclosure, the bankruptcy, excuse me, and avert the foreclosure, I had to show that I could work and pay the bill. Now, my brother was supposed to be paying the little $352. No matter who was in the house, he is the one that I want to say coerced us into getting the $30,000 loan, but he lied. I'm sure that loan was more than $30,000. Or he went behind our backs and got another loan because the final form said $145,000. So I was going to do everything possible to save my mom's house. And I couldn't sleep at my house. My children were still young and giddy, and they didn't go to bed until didn't go to bed until about midnight. And I had to be in the bed, sleep by 6 o'clock in order to get up at 1 o'clock to be at Micon on Commerce and Sheldon Road by 3 a.m. to work from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. So when you decided not to give me a ride to work, I had to make a way. Now, sure, I could have took a couple of paychecks and got a car, but God kept saying, there's danger, there's danger. Don't drive, don't drive. Now, many mornings, I got on the bus and rode my bicycle in the dark. I mean, dark as shit. A couple of days, I almost ended up in a ravine. I had to ride when I got off at Sheldon Road, right at that CBS.